Today, we are breaking down Sports Illustrated's brand new 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's get right into this. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is based on all 22 grades exclusively, and the players who are marked with an asterisk are due to drop. So let's get right into this. If you guys also want to see every single player that I've graded, see it broken down far more than just a grade out of 100, see every single position or every single group, and on top of that, every single detail, go over to join the Patreon, $5 a month, and you get extended videos for positional rankings as well as some exclusives that are coming right around the corner. So stay tuned for that. We built up a great community, and so if you want to hop on, would love for you guys to support me there. Number one overall, the New Orleans Saints go Garrett Nussmeier, and this is being recorded as of 10:30 at night Central Time on Sunday. So this is right after the Giants game just ended. So we're perfectly fresh with all the analysis of what's been going on. But the Saints, obviously, in a pretty tough rut. It's pretty much been like you got to lock in Garrett Nussmeier. If they're going to be going at quarterback, pairing him up, unless they fire Daddy Nussmeier, not out of the question, then, that would end up changing things. But if you're debating different quarterbacks at the top and then one of the prospects' dads is your offensive coordinator who will be literally coaching this kid every day, kind of makes sense to probably pair up. Like that's probably a good scheme fit. You know what I mean? Definitely a good culture fit. So the Saints go Garrett Nussmeier there at 1. And number 2, I don't even know what the hell. I always have an ad blocker on, but apparently it's failing me today. Shout out to Sports Illustrated for having an elite way to get around ad blockers. But Cleveland Browns go CeCe Maui-Goa, tackle out of Miami. I like the idea of not going after a QB here because it's kind of fun, but that's definitely not the player I would go with. CeCe has been solid. Actually, I think his teammate Markel Bell has been statistically a lot better, but I got to dig into the tape for Miami. I ended up regrading the quarterbacks. And so, within probably 3 to 4 weeks, again, I want to be able to make sure I grade every single quarterback as much as I can. We'll do a midseason ranking, especially for the quarterbacks, because that's the one that I've made sure that I've stayed the most up to date on. But I will just say, CeCe Maui-Goa doesn't look like a liability, but definitely not a number 2 pick. At number 3, you got the Panthers going Peter Woods, defensive interior out of Clemson. This kind of feels like a mock draft that's based back in summer. This did just end up coming out, if you guys want to see, just to make sure that I'm not talking out of my ass. It came out September 19th. Okay, so I'm sorry, 2 days ago. That was brand new. Who gives a shit? But 2 days ago, it definitely feels like this is, a little bit older. I still try to put Peter Woods in my top 10, but it's getting to the point where he's just not playing at that level to where he's justifying being a top 3 pick. We need to see a 6 pressure game out of him. We need to see 6 pressures, 4 stops, and just reasserting the type of player that we know him to be. And it's not that he's being bad, but it's just a different tier when you're talking about a top 10, top 5 prospect that he has not really done yet. At number 4, you got the Jets going Fernando Mendoza, quarterback at Indiana. Dude's an absolute baller. And yes, this is actually before he ended up lighting it up. So shout out to whoever wrote this for at least being ahead of the gun on Fernando Mendoza. He's my QB2 going into that week. And so I'm super excited. Well, technically 3, because I ended up boosting up John Mateer. Have not been able to get some all-22 for LaNorris this year. And he would probably end up dropping below. And then Mendoza, I don't have that all-22 yet either. But I've watched both of them. Mendoza right now is making a pretty strong claim to be 2 or 1. Doing a fantastic job there. Number 5, though, do I really need to explain whether the Jets need a quarterback? No. So, I was just assuming that y'all knew. Dolphins go Caleb Downs, defensive back at Ohio State. Defensive back is one of the most luxury positions you can go for, but the best way to build a franchise is just go best player available. It's going to suck. It might not lead to wins, but is wins the goal when you're that far away from a Super Bowl? I don't think so. I think building the best roster is, and going best player available wouldn't be the worst idea. I think forcing something that isn't the right move for your team would probably do so. Jermon McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee, goes to the Giants at number 6. I definitely think the Giants could continue bolstering the boundary corner position, but Jermon McCoy's not even playing this year or for like a good majority of this year. So, you're really going to have to see an incredible end to the year and him pass medicals like it's nothing. I know he's doing some individual drills. I'm excited to see him get back on the field, but having somebody who didn't play a full year coming off an ACL tear, already having some speed concerns, Number 6 overall is just a very rare place to find a player who would have that. I mean, Will Johnson obviously has degenerative knee condition, which will pop up probably in a couple of years. At the same time, the Cardinals ended up arguably getting one of the best players, not the best player in the draft, in the second round. Like, I'd rather have the best player in the draft for 3 years and then not have him at all than just kind of, get somebody who might end up being starter worthy in the second. Just going to put that out there. And that's being very pessimistic. But the New York Giants end up going Jermod McCoy here at 6 feels a little bit high. I'll just say that. I like the idea in round 2, though. I think I've done that in my most recent mock. Titans then ended up going Ruben Bain, a junior edge rusher out of Miami. They're at number 7. Ruben Bain is a fantastic defender, someone who I believe he's going to end up being number 1 or number 2 on my board when I end up reevaluating him, which will probably be tonight or tomorrow. So, it's due, even though he is technically my edge 2. I mean, the only reason I haven't felt the need to just really boost him is because all I would is just boost him higher. I talk about enough about Ruben Bain at this point to just show you guys this guy is definitely going to be boosted up, but should probably be like number 2, number 1 on my board based on how well he's played this year. 50% true pass rush win rate, which guess what? And I hope you guys follow me over on Twitter because I post there a lot. Our guy, Malachi Lawrence, is the tied 3rd best player in the entire country with 50 or more pass rushing reps for true pass rush win rate. He's tied with Ruben Bain. Now, Ruben Bain has double the reps, so that is madly impressive. But I will just say Malachi Lawrence, even after going up against North Carolina, has done a fantastic job maintaining that 50+% true pass rush win rate. Chicago Bears go Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame at 8. Finally had a breakout game, and we will be dropping, of course, the studs and duds, essentially. And let's shout out to Marcus, that franchise guy. But the stock report for this past week, it will end up being able to come out tomorrow. I have the graphics ready, and all it is just preparing the video. But I wanted to get you guys out some content first before we end up doing that. And there's a new series that will probably be popping up tomorrow or the next day, depending on whether I lose my mind or not. But it might have to deal with the NFL and rookies. If you guys have been following the show, it might be very similar to the stock report. But let's get into this, though. Let's get back to this. Jeremiah Love, still fantastic performance this past week. I do not think he has earned being into the top 10. I'll just say that, especially with the 2 first-round rookies struggling to produce. I do think that the NFL is very focused on trends, and you're seeing more productive backs out around 2, 3, 4, and beyond. So it's just another reason why maybe you want to go after the value rather than necessarily the home run. At number 9, you got the Vegas Raiders going Keldrick Falk, edge rusher out of Auburn. Dude's been rock solid, consistent. The problem is Keldrick Falk, to me, has the higher run defense foundation that I think Tyree Wilson would end up still being able to have somewhat of an impact on. I know that Tyree has been a bust, but in terms of run applications, I think he should end up still being pretty fine. Keldrick Falk, I think you should go like a team that needs, like the Bears, so a team that needs just reliability. That's where you need to go. And the high upside pass rushing ability just, to me, is not there just yet. I will be reevaluating Keldrick Falk because I have a couple games on him right now in all 22. But, I love the edge class, so I'm definitely excited to reevaluate them. I just think this is not a really good fit based on what is right now working. And for the Raiders, I think we should keep what's working and end up trying to tweak some areas that's not. And number 10, we got the Cowboys going TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. Dude's also been extremely unproductive this year. Very disappointing in terms of pass rush win rate. And, in games where these guys are supposed to get 4, 5, 6 and beyond pressures, they're just very unproductive. And I don't know if it's a coaching thing. I don't know what's going on because they have the talent. Peter Woods has the talent. TJ Parker has the talent. And I was very low on TJ Parker. I did not know a single person who was lower on TJ Parker, and I'm still surprised. Like, I was like, he's my edge 11/12 because I didn't like how he processed the game. Not how he played the game, how his mind processed the game was really the differentiator there. I did not expect it to be like this. I was really hoping that, hey, you showed that mental progression, and I end up boosting a category that normally gets boosted when you end up getting more experience. That has not come to fruition this year. But the Cowboys, if it ends up somehow clicking after, having a really, really tough start there for Clemson, I'd be more than happy to see him in this range. Again, some people just have slow starts to the year. I don't think that's the case, but I hope it is. At number 11, the Browns go Jordan Tyson, wide receiver at Arizona State, the best wide receiver in the country at the moment in terms of how he's producing. Jeremiah Smith, obviously, I think is the most talented, but Jordan Tyson is the most like productive for the offense he's in. You know, Jordan Tyson's just such a good player. He screams, I'm an NFL like wide receiver one. This is not somebody who's going to come in and end up being, you know, Jerry Jeudy, who is going, like, speaking of the Browns, essentially being a serviceable one for like a team that has like really good 2 and 3. Like, this is talking about a legit high end one that should be top 10 in the NFL. That's my God honest take. Jordan Tyson just screams elite wide receiver. He has all the polish in the world. He has great, like, the only thing that could stop him is health. He has had some question marks in terms of health. That's the only thing, in my opinion, that could really stop him from being able to produce. Like, part of me just wants to go like a Devontae Adams type of comp, but I need to end up looking at the body types and see, you know, which guy's actually a little bit closer. But in terms of the technique and the overall domination, Jordan Tyson, not many guys can compete with him. So if he's here at 11, I don't blame the team like the Browns for doing it. But to walk out of the first round with Jordan Tyson and CeCe Mauigoa with 2 essentially top 10 picks, I would feel like the team hasn't improved enough. And so Jordan Tyson would be somebody I'd go after I end up trying to make a more splash pick. At number 12, the Patriots go CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. I do not think CJ Allen has deserved this. I don't even know what the hell that image is, nor do I want to find out. But CJ Allen has been just a reliable linebacker for Georgia. I do not, A, see a linebacker going this high, but B, and more importantly, I don't think CJ Allen is talented enough to go in the top 15. So that's just where I'm at. I don't want to know what that is. It's probably nothing that's bad, but I mean, I don't know what Sports Illustrated is having on here because I definitely do not share my cookies with these motherfuckers. But number 13, you got the Seahawks going Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. Size is a concern, and I know that in terms of the boundary corner position, I think they should probably go after someone with a little bit more height. Obviously, you end up like having Spoon in the slot, but you know, that boundary 2 is somebody that I would want to have a little bit more size, just a little bit more. So I'm just going to say I would go like maybe Mansour, but Mansour also, like, Avion's 5'10". Mansour is like just at 6 foot. You might even want to go after Keith Abney. Keith Abney, I love him to death. I mean, that's a fantastic player, but Mansour is like definitely where I feel comfortable, both with the talent as well as the overall, you know, build. Like, the build is a little bit more questionable compared to Keith Abney. Like, I have them stuck together. And again, there are players who are going to be like shifting around. Like, I definitely do believe that, you know, Peter Woods might take a little bit of a drop. Mansour Delane and Keith Abney both have been performing very well this year. Very happy with them being my co-cornerback ones. So I could definitely see them both vaulting up a little bit. Kenyon Sadiq has just been on a tear. Ruben Bain's been on a tear. World's been a little bit disappointing. So we're going to see some shifting around here, but I do think Mansour Delane and Keith Abney are both going to be in my top 15, if not my top 10. So really big fan of how those guys are playing. I do like the idea of a boundary corner for the Seahawks. Avion Terrell, to me, just has enough limitations to where I would end up being a little bit cautious in that regard. At 14, the Texans go Caleb Banks, defensive interior out of Florida. Too many injuries. I don't think he's going to go this high. Too raw, too many injuries. Just feels a little bit uncomfortable to go after him at 14, especially for the team like the Texans that they're looking really bad. They need to invest in the offensive line. If you see Spencer Fano there, you pull the trigger. And if you don't, then you need to get fired. Like, that's where my head's at. 15, you got the Colts going Spencer Fano. Speaking of, I literally did not see that he was right here. But on top of this, for the Texans, you let the Colts get Spencer Fano. And if I'm not mistaken, again, guys, please correct me, but I do believe the right tackle spot is open with free agency after this year. So this is an amazing move. I think Jordan Travis, he ended up being selected. And I know he's taken some reps. So we'll see if he ends up, because dude's like a measurable nightmare for most teams. Like, he has like great arm length and he's a great build. We'll see if he can end up developing into the future starter at right tackle. But Spencer Fano, if he's there at 15, sorry, Travis. Hasta la vista, baby. At number 16, the Vikings go Danny Dennis Sutton, edge rusher out of Penn State. Not necessarily the style of edge rusher that fits the Vikings. Again, you look at AVG, you look at Dallas Turner, guys that definitely don't model after Danny Dennis Sutton's game. And on top of that, Danny has been very unproductive since week 1, where he went up against Nevada. So I'll just say again, this feels like it's an outdated mock draft that got recycled and then kind of scheduled for later and ended up just being posted. I'll just say, but I mean, again, ungodly talent. Just really need to see the consistency, which started off the year amazingly, but really did take that step back in terms of production. 17, you got the Rams going Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. Love it. Arm talent's there. Kids continuing to develop. I'm excited to see Drew Aller versus like legit competition. This is the worst part of the year where a lot of these teams just have a cupcake schedule to start out the year. And, we'll see. Ball don't lie. We'll see how these players play against legit competition. Mendoza played cupcake competition, ended up playing Illinois, ended up balling the fuck out. So love that for him. But the Rams going Drew Aller makes a lot of sense given what we have seen and given where he should end up. But number 18, you got the Cardinals going Dylan Thieneman, defensive back out of Oregon. Don't really think safety is the top priority for me. At the same time, given how highly I think of Thieneman, you could try to argue it. I'm not going to, but because defensive back, there's so many issues on the Cardinals. Like personally, I would talk about Lamu here. That's somebody who I'd want at the right tackle spot. Jonah Williams actually been relatively reliable. I don't know if you guys would be opting to try to keep him for like another year and develop a tackle. That is an option, but there are certain positions that definitely need upgrading. I do want to hear from my Cardinals fans because I know you guys are very vocal about your thought process because I think Dylan Thieneman is an amazing talent, but really do want to hear that from you guys. At 19, you got the Bengals going Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama. Again, is this from week one? I just this is something that really bothers me when it comes to sports journalism nowadays. Just let's read this together and let's just see, does it explain why Caden Proctor specifically should be the pick? The Bengals might not need to use every pick on the offensive line. Joe Burrow, or might need to use every single pick on the offensive line. Joe Burrow, one of the greatest players in the game, spends far too much time injured. Bengals have to get better on the O-line, which is what they do with the selection of Caden Proctor. Can we understand why Caden though? I agree. Go offensive line. But there's Lamu there. Why Proctor over Lamu? If you just say, we love the measurables, it ends up feeling a lot more up the alley of, what the Bengals look for, which is, measurables in the trenches. Sure, you can argue that. Also, you need to talk about how Caden Proctor's been asked this year. But I will say, there's just, you got to have more reasoning for it. And it makes me continuously understand, and my BS radar is going completely off right now. This is someone who has no idea what's going on in the draft. They don't care about this. They don't pay attention to it. They probably saw some mock drafts or had AI generate something for them and edit it. It's just definitely somebody who maybe ended up doing some research early in the offseason, but definitely hasn't kept up to date with what's going on because there's just certain players in here where it's this feels very outdated. And again, how many people care about the draft? Not that many. This is going to be a low traffic page for them, but it's just a quality thing. It's integrity. Don't put out stuff that you don't genuinely have a passion for. And if you have a passion for it, and especially if you're just writing columns for Sports Illustrated, at least do some research. This is not one of them. So I'll just say that. Just put it out there. Caden Proctor probably won't be selected until round 3, day 3 at this point, based on how he's played. LaNorris Sellers goes to the Steelers at number 20, quarterback out of South Carolina. Obviously, for me, I have a ton of faith in his potential. Right now, potential is what's keeping me there. And I hate the big P word because it's what people use to justify not looking at what they actually are. But Sellers is one of those players who's just genuinely special and makes ridiculously special throws. I will just say this. I do not want him for my Steelers. And here's the reason why. We do not develop quarterback talent. And I wanted Lamar Jackson back when he was coming out in his draft. And I'm not saying this like the LeBron meme where he's like, oh man, I was sitting there and I'm like, he will go for 80. No, it wasn't like that. I genuinely wanted Lamar to sit behind Big Ben and do all that. I'm so glad he didn't. And I'm a Steelers fan, so I get haunted by Lamar Jackson every single year. But I will just say that LaNorris, Lamar would not have developed into the player he is. So LaNorris, it's a very similar thing. I know the draft's in Pittsburgh, but it does feel like we're not the right fit to make LaNorris work, which, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we can end up making it work, but, I'm perfectly fine if we end up, passing on this for a more safe quarterback that ends up being a little bit closer to the skill set of what we've worked with before, including Aaron Rodgers. That's why John Mateer would be my selection there. At 21 for the Denver Broncos, they go LT Overton, edge rusher / defensive lineman out of Alabama. I like the flexibility he brings. Definitely going to be somebody that, has the skill set to where you can use him in like a little bit more of a defensive interior role. But I don't think this is going to be worth the value. LT Overton hasn't been statistically that good. I would end up saying if you want to have a very similar role, because I agree this would end up working, go Akeem Mesidor in round 3, round 4. The guy has just under 33-inch arms. He's in that 270 to 280 role or mold, and then it makes a lot of sense. That guy's been fantastic this year as well. At 22, you got the Commanders going Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. He'll end up being a top 10 to top 15 pick. We looked at the past 2 drafts, and we have 2 of the best tight ends in the entire country, or in the entire league now coming out in back-to-back years. It's kind of time to see that, a solid tight end ends up being a really big asset for emerging offenses, which the Commanders should be looking at. At what the hell? Well, at number 23, you have the Rams going Sonny Styles, linebacker to Ohio State. Rams have never prioritized linebacker that high. I highly doubt. And like everybody continues making this mistake every year, thinking that the Rams are going to draft a linebacker in the first. Got to learn from our mistakes, people. This is just an organization that doesn't care enough about the linebacker position to end up selecting one this high. I do love Sonny Styles, though, so not going to crap on him. At 24, the Niners go Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. Dude's a baller. Not going to shame the idea of Mekhi at this range. I think he can go much higher. But for the Niners, I need to ponder that a lot more. I don't think wide receiver in the first is what will end up moving the needle for the Niners. Getting healthy is going to be the biggest thing. But we'll see how they end up approaching the free agency side of things for wide receiver. I know there's a lot of potential shifting parts there, but Mekhi Lemon, honestly, not a horrible idea. He is just somebody who's really, really reliable and can end up working in many facets of the game. So definitely somebody that's not bad in any way, shape, or form. The Buccaneers go DJ McKinney, cornerback out of Colorado at 25. Again, this does feel very disingenuous. I don't know why after, the Buccaneers drafted multiple defensive backs last year, and they're actually looking pretty solid so far as well, that it would end up being another corner here. That just doesn't make sense to me. And then on top of that, DJ, as much as I'd love to hype him up, he has not had that great of a year so far, allowing multiple touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. It's just not worth a first-round pick just yet. So it also doesn't add up with the style of corners that the Buccaneers have drafted for the boundary in the past. At 26, the Chargers go Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of the Ohio State University. Definitely think that if you want to continue having a solid wide receiver 3 in there, there's nothing wrong with continuing to add weaponry. And so I'm going to end up saying not the best position, but definitely something that I wouldn't hate on. At 27, you got the Chiefs going Mateo Uiagalelei, edge rusher out of Oregon. Has not earned it at all, but he is definitely a Spags edge rusher. I would say round 2 would be a lot better of a range for him to go. At 28, we got the Lions going Connor Lew. Love this pick. Think it's the best move for them in the first. Ragnall's loss, pretty heavily felt. So I think it's a great move. 29, the Cowboys go Jalen Kilgore, defensive back out of South Carolina. He has not earned this in any way, shape, or form. I don't know why people continue to force Jalen Kilgore in the first, but, defensive back, especially in the slot for the Cowboys, which is where Jalen Kilgore likes to lurk, is like box/slot. Not really a huge fan of that personally. At 30, we've got the Ravens going Mansour Delane, cornerback at LSU. Best player available is right up there with what the Ravens do, and they end up getting it here with Mansour. Also, Jair Alexander, they're on a short term, and so Mansour would end up being a great fit. 31, Eagles go Anthony Hill Jr., another linebacker? Huh? The fuck? How many linebackers do they want for the fucking Eagles? This is, absolute shank of a pick. Like, just as I'm like, okay. Like, I'm even agreeing with some of the analysis here. End up shanking one right here with the Eagles. They just doesn't make very much sense at all. I would end up going after my guy Keith Abney for the Eagles if I could. At 32, then the Buffalo Bills end this off with A.J. Harris, cornerback out of Penn State. Balanced corner. Losses are really bad. Very worried about that versus higher tier weaponry and higher tier scheming. So, that is where we will end off the video. Thank you guys so much for loving me, showing me the support that you do, and I'll see you later. Peace.